Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Dr. Rhonda Bompinza Zimmerman. She's a professor at Grand Canyon University, as well as the Substance Use Response Coordinator at the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. I have Dr. Cole Galloway. He's a recovering academic working in social justice and disability, primarily with babies, as the founder of Go Baby Go. And I have Ian Hendry. He's the owner of Elevated Elements, where he helps businesses upgrade their lighting correctly the first time to reduce their electrical bill and get the best ROI. The question I have for the three of you: how do you keep from becoming disheartened when things repeatedly don't go well? Cole, you offered to kick us off. Ball's in your court.
Yes, I did. Because I'm disheartened at the moment. Yay. And I usually don't have a lot to say sometimes on these, but man, I got a list, but I'll just give you one or two. So what am I doing right this second with disheartening for the private equity driven durable medical equipment that blocks kids from getting what they need? Number one is I check, is this physiological or psychological? Am I just hungry? Am I tired? Do I need to walk? Should I hug my kids? Or is this really something real? And I find that a lot of times I'd be like, well, no, this is absolutely real. And then I go have a hamburger and I'm like, oh, it's the same old stuff. I just felt extra bad. One of the things after that is, what is this telling me? Stop, Cole. Back up a second. What is this telling me? Did you not expect this? Was this completely a surprise? Drill down very specifically. I have to go, okay, disheartened to I'm irritated. I'm irritated at this one factor. When I drill down, sometimes I'll realize, like, wait a minute, they're acting this way, or that project isn't going that way because I missed a step, or it illuminates, and immediately it doesn't change the situation, it doesn't change the shit show, but it's like, oh, I can now focus on something I can do versus this feeling.
For me, particularly since I moved to Arizona, I really find that spending time outside, if I'm annoyed or upset about something, is a good place for me to reflect and then really identify, is this feeling coming from something that I've done, or is it something outside of my control? And if it's something outside of my control, I really do try to navigate in my head, what can I do to help the situation with the skill sets that I have? Who can I talk to? What resources are available for me to figure out how to change a bad situation the best I can, and then just have a little faith that things will work their way out as they intend to, and rely on that social connection with other folks that understand the situation that I'm in.
Yeah, I know for myself, it's been a lot of growing the last 7 years, and being an entrepreneur, this happens often, and I'm sure it happens often in a lot of other spaces. We're tough on ourselves when stuff doesn't turn out or expand as fast as you want to expand, because our goals are so big that we're not looking at it in the micro measurements that we should be, to be able to say that we accomplished that today, and we're giving ourselves gratitude or gratification for that. To complement that is just reminding ourselves of why we got into what we got into, or the passion behind it. Because if we lose that mindset of, we're passionate about this and we're helping these people, or whatever that is for you, then it's you really have nothing motivating you initially anyway to do that. So you're gonna fall leeway to these repeatedly, I guess, disheartening moments, and eventually it could just tear you away from that altogether, and you'll never do it again.
I love that all three of you brought up basically the question of what is real, because there's the old saying, suffering is optional. And I know for me, I have to notice that I'm suffering. Like, I can get into these funks where I'm just unhappy and I'm disheartened and this isn't working. And I have to really pay attention to, what is my internal voice? What is it saying? And is it true? And most of the time it's not. It's just making up stuff and it's super unhappy. But if I don't notice that, I can go down that rabbit trail pretty quick.
Yeah, and I also think, as usual, my comments are here about the individual stuck within a social system. Like, what kind of team have you created? Rhonda brought that up of seeking out other people. And if you don't in the moment have another person, one person I have in my head and I have some other people that are actual people, but a person in my head, if I'm out on that walk, I'll play this, and it may be just me, but I'll play this person that just says, well, then Rhonda, Ian, just stop them. Yeah, you're just stop whatever that is. And if I've gotten specific, then it's just stop that project. And sometimes I actually do, like I go, self, you're right. This is wacky. We keep hitting this thing. We should stop this project. Or if it's too global, I'll be like, shut up. I'm not giving up on kids. It's like, well, then what? Come on. Did you not expect this to happen? I turn the tables and, just if it's too much, just quit. And sometimes I quit. And sometimes I go, oh, shut up. I'm back in there. And I run back in. Better.
Sometimes we find ourselves with these monumental goals that we're focused on. And if we go back and just break things into smaller chunks, like little steps that we can do each day that leads us on a path of bigger, better things ahead, slowing the process down in your mind and breaking it down into smaller steps sometimes can help you see the light at the end of the tunnel through the gray spots for sure.
Mm-hmm. Ian, you mentioned noticing the steps you've taken so far. I love that because you're right. As an entrepreneur, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm here and I want to get there. And you forget that you used to be over there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How do you notice? How do you do that?
That's the challenging thing. Like people from the outside see how much you're doing all the time. They can see and measure it like clearly. Mm-hmm. And because you're in the thick of it, you don't notice it.
I think journaling can help too. I'll give you, for instance, so I was living in Southwest Georgia at a time, and the atrocities that I was seeing in this environment, I could not believe in 2000 that these kind of things were still happening. And I journaled what happened, and I really was depressed and quit a job where I was told to just like sit down and read a newspaper and not teach these kids that were socially and economically challenged. And I really was depressed. And I journaled all that. I found that like a week ago. It just, like you talked about, Dr. Robyn, you go back through your journey and you see all the progress and all the things you've done as a result of what you experienced. You see the changes, maybe not right in the moment, but again, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, that can really be a helpful process.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask Dr. Robyn something, because you guys hit on something that I could just usually just shake my head at. Noticing's not a problem for me. Spending any second, I think this is very common, maybe Rhonda has this too, for social justice workers, is I don't give a shit that we've come this far. Do you understand how far we have to go before people stop begging for basics? How do I learn to go, yeah, we've done a good job? Because that viscerally feels like no. That feels worse than disheartening. That feels like something weird.
I was going to bring up the point that for me, I have to always remind myself to do a better job of when someone says, because Ian, you mentioned this, someone says to me, oh my goodness, you're doing such great things. You're so amazing. I'm always like, oh my goodness, no, that's terrible. You're crazy. You have no idea. Look at all. And I'm easy to brush that off. Learning to take that moment and say, you know what, you're right. And I'm allowed to be proud of myself for that. But I'm not good at it. Ian, are you good at that?
You know what? I had to learn that. And it's funny you mentioned that. It's what we're doing is just crediting what somebody else is saying about our great achievements, whether we think they're great or not. And I mean, I could talk about this all day. So it's just being kind to ourselves, going through these times, like giving yourself grace and patting yourself on the back, as you were saying, Dr. Cole. Like, we don't do enough of it for the smallest things in the world. Journaling is a big part of it. Adding the things that you're grateful for in that day, whether it's just waking up or having clean clothes, but we don't think of those things. And giving yourself grace or gratitude and kindness is far from our reach on a normal day for some reason.
I think another part of it too is to recognize that just because other people have it worse doesn't mean our situation isn't frustrating or disappointing. I think we're really good at gaslighting ourselves and saying, oh, this isn't so bad. Everybody else has it worse. Well, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to be disappointed with yourself or whatever in that moment, and then pull yourself out of it and move on.
Yeah, we need some quick hits on those couples, because that doesn't, wow. I mean, I can cognitively go, yes, you're right, we've done this, that, and the other, and then turn around and go, come on, let's go, let's go, come on. And it's
And maybe
not,
that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's not a bad thing. That is our 10 minutes. So I'm going to cut us off there. I thank you so much for sharing some of your journey with me. I think this has been a really fun conversation, and I look forward to talking to each of you again really soon.